Princess Lila lived in a grand castle. She loved to play in the royal gardens. The gardens were huge and beautiful. Lila explored a new part every day. One sunny morning, Lila was exploring. She followed a path she had never seen before. The path was narrow and covered in leaves. Lila was curious where it would lead.
I wonder where this path goes.
The path ended at a tall wall. The wall was old and covered in ivy. Lila saw a small gate hidden under the ivy. It looked like it hadn't been opened in years. Lila pushed the gate open. It creaked loudly.
Wow, what could be behind this gate?
Lila stepped through the gate. She gasped. Behind the wall was the most beautiful garden she had ever seen. It shimmered in the sunlight. Flowers of every color bloomed in neat rows. A little fountain splashed in the middle of the garden.
Welcome to the Enchanted Garden.
Lila turned around. A tiny fairy with sparkling wings hovered in the air.
I am Flora, the guardian of this garden.
Lila was amazed. She had never met a real fairy before.
It's beautiful, but why are some parts dull?
Lila noticed that some flowers were wilting. Some trees had lost their leaves. The air felt sad. Flora sighed.
A mischievous goblin stole the rainbow crystal. The crystal is the heart of the garden. It gives everything its color and magic. Without it, the garden is fading.
Lila felt sad for the garden and for Flora.
We must get it back. Can you take me to the goblin?
Flora shook her head.
The goblin lives beyond the Whispering Woods. It is too dangerous.
Just then, a wise old owl hooted from a branch above.
I know where the goblin lives, but first, you must solve my riddle. What has a neck without a head, a body without legs?
Lila thought hard about the owl's riddle. She looked around the garden for clues. A neck without a head, she murmured. A body without legs.
Suddenly she smiled. She knew the answer.
A bottle, Lila exclaimed.
The owl hooted with delight. You are wise and clever, Princess Lila, he said. The goblin lives inside a bottle. It sits on a shelf in his cave.
Flora gave Lila a tiny pouch filled with shimmering fairy dust.
Sprinkle this on the goblin, Flora instructed. It will make him kind.
Lila thanked Flora and the owl. She felt braver now. She set off towards the Whispering Woods to find the goblin and the rainbow crystal. The Whispering Woods were dark and scary, but Lila was determined. She thought about the garden and how sad it looked. This gave her courage. Finally, Lila found the goblin's cave. It was dark and damp. Lila saw a bottle on a shelf. A tiny goblin was trapped inside. He was shouting and banging on the glass. Lila carefully took the bottle down. She sprinkled some fairy dust over the goblin. The goblin stopped shouting. He looked at Lila with surprise. He looked smaller and less scary than before.
Please, let me out, the goblin squeaked. I'll give you anything.
Lila opened the bottle. The goblin jumped out. He looked around the cave.
It's so boring here, he grumbled. That's why I took the crystal. It was pretty. He pulled a sparkling crystal from his pocket and gave it to Lila.
Lila took the rainbow crystal back to the enchanted garden. As soon as she stepped through the gate, the crystal began to glow. A beautiful rainbow spread across the sky. Color flooded back into the garden. The flowers bloomed again. The trees grew new leaves. The air felt happy.
Flora hugged Lila tightly. You saved the garden, she whispered.
The goblin was amazed. He had never seen the garden so beautiful. He promised to never take anything again. From that day on, Lila visited the enchanted garden often. She learned that even the smallest person can be brave. She learned that kindness can change someone's heart. And she learned that magic can be found in the most unexpected places.